This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, March 3rd, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on some context, and help each other understand.
Today, we have a roundup of the big announcements from Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Bodie Grimm tells us about a new kind of battery for EVs and more from your emails.
I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Robb Dunewood.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story, which is Mobile World Congress. We have lots of news coming out of Barcelona, so we're going to move through the important highlights so you have a good overview of what's been announced. There has been a ton. We shall start with Lenovo. You don't see Lenovo making as many announcements as CES as you used to, but it's become something of a reliable participant at Mobile World Congress. First, the concepts. The Yoga Solar PC concept has solar panels in the lid. They have their mounting brackets and grid lines on the back so that they sit nice and flat. Offer up to 24% conversion, which is pretty much on par with some good home solar. Can also adjust solar cell settings dynamically to maximize that production. Lenovo says the panels could add an hour of video playback after just 20 minutes in the sun, as well as charge indoors off as little as 0.3 watts of light. Lenovo has no commercial plans. This is just a concept. There was also the Lenovo ThinkBook Flip. It has a foldable display that when you unfold it reaches 18 inches, so you can have a super tall laptop screen, or you can keep folding it over and then somebody can sit on the other side and see a monitor themselves. You could also fold it down flat and use it like a tablet. No commercial plans for that one either. Lenovo demonstrated a bunch of concepts. The Lenovo AI display, which has an internal NPU, so your PC can use a local model without needing its own NPU. If you don't have one in your laptop, the monitor would do it for you. That monitor also can rotate, elevate, and tilt to follow your movements. They showed off an AI stick, which added 32 TOPS external NPU to any laptop that had a USB-C Thunderbolt 4 port. And there was a ThinkBook 16P Gen 6 with modular bays that allow you to add 8 to 13-inch secondary screens. And they demonstrated a 3D laptop using directional backlights. Again, no commercial plans yet for any of this stuff, although I think the external NPU is a great idea. As for things you can buy, there were whole announcements in the T series. The 16-inch Yoga Pro 9i Aura edition is powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor and ships with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 inside. Has a double layer of OLED pixels for brightness and power efficiency and supports 100% sRGB, P3, and Adobe RGB color gamut. If you don't know those acronyms, don't worry. That just means true to life color accuracy, which is pretty good. Available in Q2, starting at $1,799. The 15-inch IdeaPad Slim 3X is a Copilot Plus PC running on Qualcomm Snapdragon X. That one starts at $649, so a very affordable Copilot Plus PC. And I think we'll call out the ThinkPad X13 Gen 6 as well. Weighs just 2.05 pounds, coming in June, starting at $1,139. I know we got a lot to get to here, Rob, but what do you make of these Lenovo announcements?
The coolest thing to me was the stuff that will probably never see the light of day, the solar powered laptop, because it would just be cool, but it's so unpractical. Take that tech and probably put it into a solar generator so that you could charge more than just a laptop. You might want to charge your Wi-Fi hotspot, other things that need to be plugged in.
Or you can just buy solar panels and plug them into any laptop.
Exactly. But it does sound cool. It probably would look cool too.
Yeah, it's nice to have them built
solar
in.
panels on it.
No, I'm with you. All right, let's do an MWC lightning round. Google announced new features for Gemini. A screen share feature can let Gemini see what's on your phone screen, and then you can ask it questions about it.
What are some outfit ideas for these pants?
These jeans have a cool, relaxed fit. For a casual look, you could pair them with a simple white tee or a fitted black turtleneck.
I like the turtleneck, but what jacket should I wear? The legs are super baggy.
Since the jeans are already kind of baggy, a denim jacket or a bomber jacket would be cool and casual.
The example they gave was a shopping site showing a pair of jeans. I believe they may have been meant to look similar to Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl jeans, with the user asking what other clothing would go well with it. Another feature called Gemini Live lets you ask questions about what's in a video as you're pointing your camera at something. The example they gave there was a person asking Gemini which glaze would make their pottery look more mid-century modern. We've all wondered that at some point, I'm sure. The features will come to Gemini Advanced users on Google One AI Premium for Android later this month.
And Google and HP are working on a 3D video platform that does not require glasses or a headset. Project Starline uses 6 cameras at each end of the conversation for the 3D capture and light field displays to simulate depth. Light field displays project different angles of an image to each eye. So yes, you need special cameras and displays, hence the collab with HP. It can also only show one person at a time, but the hope is to launch working models out of the lab later this year.
TCL has details on the Next Paper 11 Plus that we saw at CES. That's a tablet with a paper-like screen that is LED, not e-paper. It'll cost €249 with regional prices for North America, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. No date on the release yet, but TCL did announce full details for its 60 series phones, several of which also have Next Paper screens.
TCL also showed off its Ray Neo X3 smart glasses with 2500 nit full color displays. The design is the usual somewhat thick framed but otherwise normal looking glasses. You control them by tapping or swiping on the right temple. They were demoing live translation captions, but there's no pricing yet, with a release planned for mid-year.
Xiaomi launched the €999 Xiaomi 15 and €1,500 15 Ultra phones. Those both run on Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Elite mobile platform. The Ultra has a circular camera bump and includes a new periscope lens, making it a favorite camera phone for a lot of the reviewers. Not all, but some. Xiaomi also demonstrated a prototype lens attachment for its phones that uses the Qi 2 magnet so they don't fit over the existing camera bump, but still provide direct connection to the phone. Requires 2 extra pins in the phone, so you're going to have to get a new Xiaomi phone to use these if they ever come out with them. It's similar to Sony's QX sensor integrated lenses back in 2014, or maybe a little bit comparable to Motorola's modular attempts. They had some lenses in their modular phones, but this has better support from current wireless technology. Xiaomi's modular optical system also uses a 100 megapixel light Fusion X Micro Four Thirds sensor. That's a really good thing to just tap onto your phone with a magnet.
That's a heck of a camera. I mean, you're getting close to full frame when you're talking Micro Four Thirds. I mean, that's pretty good. Among Belkin's other mini accessories is the 11-in-1 Pro GAN dock. It has up to 150-watt GAN power and support for up to 3 external displays. It has multiple USB ports, HDMI, Gigabit Ethernet, micro SD slots, and an audio jack. It's available now for $200.
HMD Global announced the Fusion X1 smartphone. This one's designed for kids, so it's got a bunch of custom parental controls. If you're not familiar, this is kind of a new form factor out there, or I guess a new device category. It allows only trusted contacts, blocks access to social media or the web browser anyway. It offers some web content, but not a browser. Also offers tracking and alerts to parents if a kid goes outside of the area they're supposed to be in. If you are familiar to Pinwheel or Gab, it's similar to those phones. The Fusion X1 will launch in May for between $250 and $300. Germany's DT announced it is building a phone in collaboration with Perplexity, PixArt, and a few others. It'll unveil details in the second half of this year and sell it in 2026 for less than $1,000.
Stability AI announced it's partnering with ARM on a generative audio model for mobile called Stable Audio Open. It will let users create sound effects and audio samples on device without needing the internet. The model was trained on data from Free Sound and Free Music Archive.
And Qualcomm announced that its new modem, the X85 5G modem, can reach peak download speeds of up to 12.5 gigabits per second. That's up from 10 gigabits per second in the last generation modem. Look for those to show up in Android phones this year, but don't look for 12.5 gigabit per second service because that doesn't exist yet. But you want some headroom. You want some room to grow, right? That's Mobile World Congress. Real quickly before we move on, because that could be a whole show right there, I imagine. Any thoughts on any of the stuff that you're seeing coming out of here? A lot of concepts, I feel like, getting covered this year.
There's a lot of concepts. And like I said, I don't know that we're going to necessarily see ever see these things come to light of the day. But I am a fan of Mobile World Congress, always have been back when BlackBerry was dominating that conference. So it's always good to just see what the phone manufacturers around the world are coming out with.
And Jason Howell's on the ground there. We're going to talk to him tomorrow and hopefully Wednesday as well about some of the things he has seen with his own eyes there in Barcelona, besides just the Hamon.
DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Jeffrey Zilks, Alo, and Adam L., and Tony Glass.
There is some non-Mobile World Congress stuff. Let's get right to the briefs without getting too in the weeds. Several folks have reported that NVIDIA's 50 series GPUs are missing ROPs or ROPs. That stands for render output units. That's a hardware component that renders assembled pixels into a complete image ready for display. Gamers Nexus did some poking around. They found an example of a card with the missing ROPs, and in testing found that performance varied depending on the title, but could reach up to 11% drop in performance in the worst cases. Now, NVIDIA has acknowledged that this was a problem. They say it was some early production units that are missing the hardware, and reports that the average drop would be 4%. So 11% would be the worst case. NVIDIA says on average it would be 4%. If you buy a 50 series GPU, you might want to look for GPU-Z. That is a way to test and see if it has all of the hardware it's supposed to have in it. And if it doesn't, you can get a replacement. NVIDIA says it will work with manufacturers to replace these. Or you could just put up with it and hope your games aren't the ones with the 11% drop in performance, because it's almost impossible to get a card. So I'm not sure how you're going to get a replacement.
Can you buy video cards on Earth anymore? I mean, it actually works as they're advertised. It seems like it's getting increasingly difficult. So I like how this is written. If it does not have all the hardware that you paid for, you can return it.
you can return it and maybe get a replacement if they have one. Yeah.
Apple CEO Tim Cook posted the words, quote, "this week," end quote, on X with a video that reads, "there's something in the air. No one can say for sure what this means, but we got a new MacBook Air with an M4 chip later this week and possibly an iPad Air. What could it mean?"
Yeah, or Air tags. What could he? We're getting a new MacBook Air.
We're getting stuff. We're getting stuff later this week.
After people expressed fear that Mozilla would sell their user data because of a change in terms of service, Mozilla has changed the wording of its terms to make it clear it has not changed anything other than the words. Before it was changed to say it would use your information to, quote, "help you navigate, experience, and interact with online content as you indicate with your use of Firefox." In other words, to use the browser. It now reads, "You give Mozilla the rights necessary to operate Firefox. This includes processing your data as we describe in the Firefox privacy notice. It also includes a non-exclusive royalty-free worldwide license for the purpose of doing as you request with the content you input in Firefox. This does not give Mozilla any ownership in that content." In other words, that's a lot more words to say it will use your information so you can use the browser. Mozilla also removed a claim that it never sells user data from its online privacy FAQ. That was a little more eyebrow raising. Mozilla says that's because it shares aggregate data, like how many users it has in what regions, with advertisers for its new tab page. If you've ever opened a new tab in Firefox, there's some ads on there. And Mozilla claims that California's new Consumer Privacy Act considers that selling user data, so they can't say they don't sell user data because they sell those big aggregates. Do you believe
what Mozilla is going through right now expresses exactly why, after legal changes a term of service, they need to send it to a PR firm first before they release it into the wild, because you will then have to go through and then get it to a PR firm to fix what you actually said with more words that people understand.
I'll add to that, it's why terms of service are so written in such a tortured fashion, because if you write them in normal speech, people go, well, wait, that could also mean this. And so they're like, okay, fine, let's add more words to make it clear that we're not going to do this.
The second commercial vehicle ever has landed on the surface of the moon successfully. Firefly Aerospace launched Blue Ghost on a SpaceX rocket on January 15th. It landed Sunday, March 2nd. Firefly intends to use the vehicle to explore a large basin called the Sea of Crisis. Intuitive Machines, the first company to land a commercial vehicle on the moon last year, has another vehicle called Athena scheduled to land later this week on the moon near its south pole.
Yeah, it's getting crowded up there on the moon. Investor Mark Cuban posted on Blue Sky Saturday that laid off U.S. government workers at the GSA's 18F unit should form a consultancy. This is Cuban saying, like, you guys should get together. He believes the GSA is going to find that it needs their expertise, and then they're going to need a consultant to fix problems caused by not having that expertise because of these layoffs. Cuban offered to invest in such a company or even just help them set it up. Approximately 70 engineers and designers were laid off from 18F Saturday. This is the department that works on government technology. So this is not a partisan part of the government. They do things like login.gov, which frankly, I've found login.gov to be fairly well designed and effective. So I don't know, Cuban may be onto something. Like they're going to need you. You should be in a position to charge them for that when they come back to you.
Cuban is definitely onto something. And this is not very efficient because you will absolutely pay more than when you had it in house if you do it, if they go this route.
You sound like you speak from some kind of experience in that.
Just, I don't know, 24, 25 years of it. Opera announced an AI agent called Browser Operator available in limited preview. Because it's built into the browser, it does not rely on screenshots or video and does not collect any more information about you than the browser already needs to operate. So far, it can buy things, book tickets, and take info from websites and put them into a spreadsheet. The agent will pause and ask you for input when you need it, and you can pause its action at any time.
Yeah, you got to use the command line, I think, to activate it right now because it's in test preview. But once they make that really easy to get to, I think that's a pretty compelling browser feature that probably other people are going to emulate. Finally, the Wall Street Journal reports how some Chinese companies are able to obtain NVIDIA chips that are restricted by the U.S. from being sold to companies in China. Companies who can buy the chips legally order servers with them installed in places like Malaysia, Taiwan, and Vietnam. But they order more servers than they need and then sell some of those to companies registered outside China. That way they can say, we bought it legally, we sold it to someone who was not in China, so we sold it legally. Then those companies registered outside China transfer them to companies registered inside China and tried to avoid the scrutiny that would normally come with that. NVIDIA says it will investigate and take action if it finds these violations to be true, noting that even if companies in China get these servers, they don't get the support NVIDIA provides. So there's always that.
There's always loopholes. There's always loopholes.
Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow up.
Car tech is a complicated thing, especially with the ever-growing amount of tech inside it. Tom has been sitting down with Bodie Grimm of the Kilowatt Podcast to help us get a better understanding. Today, Bodie told us about new car battery designs from BYD that supposedly are safer and cheaper. So what's the downside?
Bodie, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate you sharing your car tech wisdom with us like this.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you calling it wisdom.
No, absolutely. I mean, everything's always relative from where you sit. Tell us about this new BYD design battery. What is this?
Okay, so BYD in 2020 designed this blade battery cell. So everybody's probably familiar with like cylindrical battery cells because that's what we used to put in our remotes and
like
stuff
D
like that.
batteries. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not too different than what typically goes into your car. But BYD, what they did was they made exactly what it sounds like, a blade cell. So it's 945 millimeters long, and they're pretty skinny, and they're about 3.5 inches tall, and they sit in the battery pack, and they help add structure to the battery pack. But they also, and this is really cool, they also are like, they call it cell to pack, which means there's no modules. They delete a whole bunch of things that are typically needed in a battery pack, which is able to increase the bit energy density of the battery pack by 10%, which is huge because they use LFP batteries, and LFP batteries are great in a lot of ways. Energy density is not one of those ways.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, wait, I've seen a battery inside a Tesla. It's a big boxy thing. What are you talking about? But it's inside. What is inside of that is usually the cylinders, right? In arrays and packs and things like that. Is that what's changed with the blade design?
Yeah, so it's they just kind of all line up, and that helps keep it cool. And there's a bunch of other things that go into that. But yeah, I think it's really cool technology.
Okay, so then the first question always when we get a new battery technology is it safe? Is it going to be more or less likely to catch fire, cause a problem, et cetera? What's the thinking on this one?
Okay, so as a firefighter, I will say anytime energy is running through anything, it's not 100% safe.
Sure.
BYD would like you to think there's no chance of this catching on fire, and as a matter of fact, some of the literature that I read on their website said the chance there's no chance of fire. That's not true. There's always a chance of fire, but I don't think it's any more likely than any of the other types of battery technology that's out there. They did a penetration test where basically like shoot a nail through the cell, and they got the temperatures heated up between 30 to 60 degrees Celsius, which is about 80 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. You can almost touch that with your hand. It's supposed to mimic like thermal runaway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not dangerous. It's probably as safe as any other technology out there when it comes to batteries.
Okay, so in other words, if it got punctured, it'll warm up a little, right? Be pretty hot
Yeah.
to the touch, but that is not nearly the runaway, that some batteries might go with. Is it safer than?
I don't think so. like when I looked through all this stuff, and I can't find good literature on this, and believe me, I tried. It does not appear to be safer, but I don't think, and I have a high tolerance for fire stuff, but I don't, this is not something that's going to ever keep me up at night, is whether or not a car is going to catch on fire just for sitting in the garage, because as a firefighter, I've been to way too many cars that were like gasoline powered vehicles that caught on fire in the
Sure.
garage. Like, it's going to happen. It doesn't, wherever you have energy, you have the potential for fire.
Okay, so maybe no more safer than current EVs, but that doesn't mean it's unsafe. Sounds like it is a little cheaper from what you were talking about, just because of the way they design it. It's a little more efficient. What are the downsides of this? If you've got that efficiency, you've got that cost savings.
Well, the downsides are it's a little bit higher cost for manufacturing costs. And that's not like the battery pack itself. Like, they have to put this, and when I say manufacturing, I should probably say like repairability costs, because they put this structural glue in there to keep the battery pack in place, and then they fill it with all this fire retardant stuff too. Well, that glue is very hard to get out. So if one of those battery cells goes bad, it's difficult to remove and repair that cell, just because the glue in there is designed to be structurally strong. If you want a good example of this, Sandy Munro did a teardown of the Cybertruck battery pack, and that it's got a similar glue in there. And yeah, they had a devil of a time getting it out.
Okay, so cheaper to make for them,
Right.
not cheaper to repair for us. When are we going to get an improvement of this? I heard we have the first generation out now. When's the second generation coming?
So the second generation, sometime in 2025, I would feel comfortable saying sometime in the second quarter of 2025. It's going to be higher energy density, which means more range. It's going to have faster charging times, about 15% cost reduction in manufacturing, which is great. And I think this technology is really cool. I think CATL is another company that's using blade batteries, and in China, Tesla is actually using BYD's batteries in some of their entry level cars as well. I think it's the Model 3.
Got it. So keep an eye out if you're shopping for a car. Obviously, we're not going to see these in the U.S. necessarily, but in Europe and elsewhere, you might be able to find not only BYDs, but maybe some other manufacturers might start adopting that blade battery technology, huh?
Yeah, and you know what? You might find it here in the United States, because I meant to mention this on one of the episodes, the first one we did. BYD does operate here in the U.S. They just have in California, they have a bus plant, an electric bus plant, and electric like medium duty truck plant. So like the like garbage trucks and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah.
So, and I don't know if they use that battery technology in those particular vehicles, but
yeah, maybe.
could.
Yeah, they could. So keep an eye out on that. Bodie, thanks so much for helping us understand all this. Appreciate it. If folks want to find more details, more coverage like this, where should they go?
you should go to 918digital.com and check out everything I'm doing there. There's Kilowatt. I have a podcast with Robb Dunewood where we talk about content creation. That's called Beyond the Post. And then I have another fun podcast with my friend Chris where we just talk about songs called Shuffle Playlist. But everything is at 918digital.com.
Fantastic. Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, what would you like to hear us talk about on the show? We get some great ideas from our subreddit. You can join in over there. Just vote on the stuff people are submitting or submit your own at reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Damon is helping us understand.
Yeah, he writes, hey, DTNS crew, with the recent death of Skype, I can't help but think about how they lost out to Zoom during the pandemic. How did this happen when it was already installed on everyone's computer? I'd love to hear a deep dive or your opinions on how you think this happened. Keep up the great work, Damon. So yeah, we'll think about if we can get a deep dive, if we can find more details about what actually happened. But my general opinion, Rob, I don't know about you, is that Skype just wasn't on as many desktops as we thought. And when the pandemic came, the mainstream folks looked for something, and Zoom was new and easier to use and a little flashy, and Skype was old.
Skype was on a lot of desktops before the pandemic. Zoom was available to everybody on the internet that had a web browser and an internet connection. So that's where the calculus changed. Yeah. It's like a lot of people, compared to everyone who could potentially, connect is what ultimately ended up happening to Skype.
Yeah, that's our best guess anyway, is that Zoom was new and easier to use for people. Even if you had Skype on your desktop, a lot of people were like, ooh, that's Skype. It's kind of buggy. It doesn't always work. And I think just Zoom won the mindshare war. But great opinion, Damon. And if anybody else has some insight on this, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Big thanks to Bodie, Grimm, and Damon for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for the Daily Tech News Show, made possible by our patrons on patreon.com/DTNS. DTNS has a live version as well. DTNS Live, me, Sarah Lane, Rob, Roger Chang, bunch of people every week. You can find that on YouTube, Twitch, or more details at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.